By dawn, orange X marks covered nearly 200 old apple trees on a ridge above the Mississippi River. The new owner wanted the orchard bulldozed before winter. One woman asked for 3 days before the machines came. She was not trying to save the trees. She wanted the branches. What follows is a source-grounded, fictionalized farm story, built around the real economic pressures, agricultural trade-offs, and debt risks that shaped Midwestern farming in the 1970s and 1980s. In the fall of 1974, Nora Kemp was 32 years old and working 6 days a week at a fruit packing house in southwestern Wisconsin. She stood beside a grading line for 10 hours at a time, watching apples pass under fluorescent lights while women with quick hands sorted them by size, color, bruising, and shape. Nora knew the rules well enough to judge a load before the first bin reached the belt. Uniform fruit went one direction. Small fruit went another. Oddly shaped fruit, russeted fruit, fruit with skin that looked rough even when the flesh was sound. All of it dropped into lower value bins. The packing house did not hate flavor. Flavor simply was not what the machinery could measure. The system wanted sameness because sameness moved quickly. Nora understood that. She also understood something the grading line could not tell her. Some of the ugliest apples in the building were the ones workers took home. They came from Old Hill orchards planted before chain groceries, and long-distance storage had rewritten what an apple was supposed to look like. Some kept well, some made exceptional pies, some held their shape when cooked, some ripened late enough to miss early fall heat. A few were nearly useless for shipping but unforgettable when eaten the day they came off the tree. The packing house treated those differences as problems. Nora began treating them as information. She had grown up on dairy farms, not orchards. Her parents had moved 3 times before she finished high school, always to a slightly larger rented place. Always because the next landlord promised better terms or better pasture. By the time Nora was 18, she had learned a lesson that had nothing to do with fruit. A farm could look prosperous from the road and still belong, in every meaningful sense, to the payment schedule. She spent most of her 20s working seasonal jobs and saving. Cannery in summer, packing house in fall, bookkeeping for a feed dealer in winter. She drove old cars, rented a room above a hardware store, and said no to every salesman who told her she could own more if she borrowed sooner. In 1971, she bought a narrow ridge farm of fewer than 40 acres with cash and a short private note to the seller that she paid off in less than 2 years. The land was too steep for the row crop farmers who had been bidding aggressively on flatter ground. It had a weathered house, a spring, an equipment shed with one good wall, and a south-facing slope that held cold air differently from the valleys below. Most people saw land that would always be inconvenient. Nora saw land nobody could pressure her to overuse. She planted a few apple trees that first spring. Not many. She could not afford many. That was the beginning of her second education. She learned pruning at night from library books. She learned grafting from a retired horticulture teacher named Ellis Shaw, who lived outside La Crosse and had the irritating habit of refusing to answer questions until Nora had told him what she had already observed. If she asked why a graft failed, he asked where the cut had dried first. If she asked why one tree survived winter damage and another did not, he asked which side of the ridge each tree occupied. If she asked what variety she should plant, he asked what problem she wanted the tree to solve. Nora began carrying a notebook in the orchard, not a diary, a field book, bloom dates, wind exposure, frost pockets, insect damage, storage life, texture after 6 weeks in a cellar, which apples browned quickly after cutting, which ones stayed firm in a pie, which ones dropped before they were ripe enough to sell. By 1974, That notebook had become more valuable to her than any catalog. That was why the orange X marks mattered. The orchard being cleared that fall sat on a ridge across the river. It had been planted in stages over several decades. The trees were large, irregular, and difficult to spray with modern equipment. Their fruit came in too many sizes. Their harvest dates were spread across too many weeks. To a grower trying to move truckloads of uniform apples through a wholesale packing line, the orchard was inefficient in almost every possible way. The land had changed hands. The new owner wanted corn on the flatter section and pasture on the rest. A bulldozer had already been scheduled. Nora asked if she could take scionwood before the trees came down. The owner laughed because he thought she meant firewood. When he understood that she wanted pencil-thick pieces of one-year growth from selected trees, he told her she could cut what she wanted if she paid him less than $100 and stayed out of the way of the equipment. Nora agreed. For 3 days, she climbed ladders labeled bundles, wrapped cut ends against drying, and matched each bundle to notes she had taken about the fruit the previous season. She did not save nearly 200 varieties. Many trees were duplicates. Some were unhealthy. Some had fruit with no quality she could justify keeping. She saved fewer than 24 lines. That was enough. The following spring, Nora grafted those lines onto inexpensive rootstock she had bought in bulk with another grower. She did not plant them in one block by variety. She spread them across the ridge, mixed with newer trees she had already started testing. Ellis Shaw looked at the layout and said, "You're making harvesting harder." Nora said, "I know." He waited. She added, "I'm trying to make losing everything harder, too." That was the theory. The weather tested it almost immediately. In the spring of 1976, a warm spell pushed several varieties into bloom. Then a hard freeze settled into the valleys for 2 nights. Nora walked the orchard at sunrise after the second night and found brown centers inside flower after flower. The damage was worst on the lower slope. Some of her earliest blooming grafts had almost no living blossoms left. For a week, she thought she had misunderstood the whole system. She had believed that diversity alone would protect her. It did not. Diversity without placement was just a larger collection of ways to fail. So she changed the map. She moved her earliest bloomers higher on the ridge as new rootstock became available. She used lower ground for later blooming lines, and for varieties whose fruit mattered more for cooking than appearance. She stopped treating the orchard as one field and began treating it as a series of small climates. Cold air flowed downhill. Wind struck one shoulder of the ridge harder than another. Snow lingered in shaded cuts. One strip dried quickly after rain. Another stayed damp enough to invite disease. The lesson was not romantic. It was labor. A mixed orchard demanded more walking, more record-keeping, more picking passes, more small decisions. It was slower. That slowness became the price of resilience. Nora paid it because the alternative was a system that worked beautifully until the day every tree needed the same weather at the same time. Her first real market did come from a grocery chain. It came from a bakery. In 1977, a baker in a nearby river town bought 2 crates of Nora's rough-skinned cooking apples because the regular supplier had run short. He called 3 days later and asked for more. Not because they were pretty, because they stayed firm under heat and tasted sharper after baking than the standard apples he had been using. Nora brought him 4 crates, then 6. The baker asked whether she had a late apple that would keep into winter. She did. He asked whether she had something sweeter for a fresh tart. She did. For the first time. The very differences the packing line punished became the reason a customer returned. Nora did not stop selling wholesale. She still needed the packing house. She still sent fruit that met commercial grades through the normal channels. But she began building a second path beside the first. Bakery orders, a roadside stand on Saturdays, a restaurant that wanted small aromatic apples for a fall menu, families who came back for the same late variety after tasting it the year before. She did not need every apple to be premium. She needed enough of the crop to have more than one possible buyer. That distinction shaped every financial decision she made. The first season that proved the idea was not elegant. Nora set a folding table beside the county road with 6 wooden crates, a kitchen scale, brown paper sacks, and index cards explaining what each apple was good for. The cards did more work than any sign she could have painted. One said, "Good for pie, keeps its shape." Another said, "Eat now, does not store long." A third said, "Sharp late, better after a week in the cellar." Customers asked questions because the fruit did not look identical. Nora answered them because the differences were the product. On the first Saturday, she sold less than she had hoped. On the second, several people came back and asked for the apples they had bought the week before. That mattered more. A returning customer was evidence that the market did not need to be taught from zero every time. She began writing names beside varieties in another notebook. Not customer names, buyer types, pie, fresh, storage, sauce, restaurant, wholesale. The same tree could not serve every market, and that became part of the discipline. If a variety tasted exceptional but bruised easily, she did not pretend it was a shipping apple. If a variety stored beautifully but tasted ordinary in September, she waited. If fruit was too small for the packing line but perfect for sauce, she priced it for that use rather than treating it as failure. By the end of the decade, the farm had not become famous. It had become legible. Nora could look at a bin and see several possible destinations instead of one verdict. That mattered because one buyer could disappear. One grade could collapse. 1 week of bad timing could erase the margin on fruit that had taken a year to grow. A farm that depended on a single answer to the question, "Where does this crop go?" was asking the market for permission to survive. Nora wanted more than one answer. When a dealer offered her a new air blast sprayer on credit, she bought a used machine and rebuilt the pump. When neighboring growers installed new grading equipment, Nora paid to use their line rather than borrowing for her own. When a salesman showed her a high-density planting system that promised faster production but required posts, wire, irrigation, and a larger upfront investment, she listened carefully, took the brochure home, and calculated the payment schedule before she calculated the yield. The numbers were not necessarily bad. They were simply numbers that reduced her room to be wrong. She planted fewer trees. She kept more cash. At the time, that looked like caution. A few years later, it looked like something else. The late 1970s were years when American agriculture seemed to reward expansion. Land values rose. Credit was available. Machinery got larger. Farmers were told to grow enough to justify the equipment and borrow enough to capture the growth. That logic was not foolish in every case. Many efficient farms were built during those years. But efficiency built on variable rate debt had a hidden condition. The future had to cooperate. By the early 1980s, it stopped cooperating. Interest rates climbed. Commodity prices weakened. Land values fell. Operations that had looked strong while equity was rising suddenly had to make payments against assets worth less than the debt attached to them. The farm crisis did not punish only careless people. It punished timing. It punished leverage. It punished families who had expanded under rules that changed after the money was borrowed. Nora watched neighbors sell cattle, machinery, and land. She watched a fruit grower 2 valleys over tear out a young block of trees because the loan on the irrigation system still had years left, and he needed cash more than he needed future harvests. Her own farm was not untouched. Fuel cost more, packaging cost more, customers became price-sensitive. One restaurant account disappeared when the business closed. A summer hailstorm damaged nearly a third of one year's fresh market crop, badly enough that the fruit could not be sold at top grade. Nora did not escape bad years. She escaped one particular kind of bad year, the kind in which the bank chose what she had to do next. That difference became visible in 1982. A larger orchard and packing operation near the river had expanded aggressively during the previous decade. The owner had installed a modern grader, a refrigerated room, and a loading area designed for wholesale trucks. The orchard itself was good. The equipment was good. The debt was not. When the operation failed, the lenders separated the assets to make them easier to sell. The bank officer who handled the property knew Nora because she had used the packing line there several times. He drove up to her ridge one afternoon with a folder on the passenger seat and an offer he thought would interest her. He wanted to finance the entire property for her. The orchard, the packing shed, the cold room, the equipment. The debt would have multiplied the size of Nora's business almost overnight. 10 years earlier, that offer would have sounded like recognition. In 1982, it sounded like a trap disguised as a compliment. Nora spent one evening with the folder. She did not ask whether the property was cheap. She asked which part of it changed her weakest point. The answer was not the land. She already had land. It was not the larger orchard. She already had more varieties coming into production than she could market efficiently. The bottleneck was storage and sorting. Without cold storage, she had to sell too much fruit on the harvest clock. Without a small grading line of her own, she depended on another operator's schedule during the busiest weeks of the year. Those were not production problems. They were control problems. The next morning, she called the bank officer. She told him she did not want the orchard. She did not want the house. She did not want the full financing package. She wanted the packing shed, the cold room, the washer, and the smallest grading line. He told her the bank preferred to sell the property together. Nora said she understood. Then she gave him the amount she could pay without borrowing. It was less than the bank wanted for the whole operation and more than it expected to get quickly for the separate equipment. For several weeks, nothing happened. Then the bank called back. The land had attracted another buyer who did not want the packing equipment. Nora's offer suddenly solved a problem. She bought the shed, the cold room, and the line without taking a loan. That purchase changed the farm more than doubling her acreage would have. The first autumn with the cold room exposed how much money had previously been lost to timing. In earlier years, Nora had watched good fruit become urgent fruit. Once the trees were picked, the clock accelerated. Every day without a buyer reduced her choices. Wholesale prices could be weak, but ripe apples did not care. Now the clock slowed. Not forever. Cold storage was not magic, and different varieties tolerated it differently. Nora learned that quickly. One aromatic apple lost its character if held too long. Another improved after several weeks. She recorded shrinkage, firmness, and spoilage the same way she had once recorded frost damage. That fall, a buyer offered a poor price for a late variety because several orchards were harvesting at once. Nora sold enough to cover immediate expenses and stored the rest. Weeks later, after the local glut had eased, she moved part of that fruit through direct accounts at a better return. The gain was not dramatic enough to make a newspaper story. That was exactly why it mattered. The farm did not need dramatic wins. It needed small advantages that repeated without creating large obligations. The grading line created another kind of control. A bin that once left the farm as one product could now become three. Clean large fruit for fresh sale, smaller sound fruit for kitchens, scarred or hail-marked fruit when safe and suitable for processing customers. Nora was not turning waste into gold. She was refusing to let cosmetic uniformity make every decision for her. Now she could hold late apples instead of dumping them into the market at harvest. She could sort fruit on rainy days. She could separate flawless fresh market apples from smaller cooking fruit and cosmetically damaged fruit without paying another operator to do it. She could accept small direct orders without interrupting a wholesale run. And after hail, she could move damaged but sound apples towards cider and cooking customers instead of watching them collapse into one low-value bin. The equipment did not create value by itself. It created choices. That was the part outsiders kept missing. People had assumed Nora's advantage was that she had found rare apples. The apples mattered. But rare apples alone could have become another fragile specialty business. Her real advantage was that she kept building options at every layer. More than one bloom window, more than one part of the ridge, more than one grade of fruit, more than one buyer, more than 1 week in which she could sell. And most important, no payment so large that a bad season could force her into a decision she had not chosen. The system had costs. Nora's orchard was harder to manage than a uniform block. Harvest took longer because varieties ripened at different times. Workers needed better instructions. Pruning could not be standardized across every tree. Marketing required more conversation because customers had to learn why one apple behaved differently from another. Some varieties Nora loved never earned enough to justify their space. She removed them. A few lines that looked promising in her notebook turned out to be too disease-prone in wet years. She stopped propagating them. Resilience did not mean keeping everything. It meant keeping enough difference to avoid one point of failure, then being disciplined enough to cut what did not earn its place. By the middle of the 1980s, the Orange X orchard had been gone for a decade. The hillside where it once stood held pasture and row crops. But pieces of those trees remained alive on Nora's ridge, grafted onto younger roots and rearranged according to what she had learned from frost, wind, storage, and customers. Some of the old lines had become central to her business. Others survived only as a tree or two because they filled a narrow need. A very late keeper, a pie apple, a variety that bloomed after the riskier spring cold. The original orchard had been inefficient because nobody had designed it as a system. Nora's orchard looked similarly mixed from the road. Up close, it was deliberate. In 1987, another severe spring cold swept through the region after an early warm spell. Commercial orchards with concentrated bloom lost heavily in some low sites. Nora lost fruit too. The lower slope was hit hard. But the late-blooming trees higher on the ridge had not opened fully, and several cooking varieties still produced enough to keep her direct accounts supplied. She did not have a record crop. She had a crop. That difference paid wages, kept the packing shed running, and protected the savings account she had built for years. The result was not proof that mixed orchards could defeat weather. Nothing defeats weather. It was proof that a farm could be designed so one night did not get to decide everything. That year, 2 neighboring growers asked if they could store part of their crop in Nora's cold room. She rented them space. The following year, she added a simple schedule on the wall of the packing shed and began charging by the bin and by the week. She had not planned to become a storage operator. The second business emerged from the same principle as the first. An underused asset becomes valuable when it gives somebody else an option they did not have before. By the early 1990s, Nora's farm was still small compared with the operations around it. That fact confused people who had been waiting for success to make her expand. She could have bought more land. She did not. She could have planted a much larger block of the varieties that sold best. She did not. She could have borrowed against the packing shed to modernize faster. She did not. Instead, she replaced equipment when it wore out, added trees in measured sections, and kept a cash reserve large enough to absorb a season she could not predict. The farm became more capable without becoming much larger. That was the achievement. Not maximum production, maximum control over the next decision. In 1994, a group of agricultural students visited the farm during harvest. They had been studying high-density orchard systems, controlled storage, chemical thinning, and the economics of large-scale fruit production. Nora did not argue against any of it. She showed them the packing line she had bought from a failed operation 12 years earlier. She showed them a ledger where storage fees from neighboring growers sat beside direct apple sales and wholesale receipts. She showed them the ridge map, now redrawn so many times that old pencil marks crossed under newer ink. Then she walked them outside. The students expected the lesson to be about heritage fruit. Nora took them instead to a gap in a row. Nothing grew there. Years earlier, a variety she had propagated heavily had failed badly in wet seasons. She had removed the trees and never replanted that section with the same line. One student asked why she had left the gap visible instead of filling it immediately. Nora looked down the row. On one side, late apples were still hanging. On the other, a different variety had already been picked. The empty space between them had weeds clipped short, and a stake still marking the old tree number. She said, "Because I paid for that mistake. I want to remember what it bought me." When the group left, Nora stayed behind long enough to write one note in the field book she had carried since the 1970s. Then she closed it, slid the pencil under the cover, and walked back toward a ridge, where no two rows bloomed on exactly the same schedule.